Hi, I'm Dana. Welcome to Made Every Day. Today we're talking about skirts. Simple skirts, the kind you can make in a half hour and with endless options. So let's get started. This is the project I probably sew the most for my girls. They are so cute and easy to make. I just want to make them all the time. I have even sewn one in 12 minutes before. That's my record. I'm going to show you how to make a single layer and a double layer skirt. So let's start with a single layer. Here's what you need: a large rectangle of fabric and 1-inch wide elastic. And the concept is real basic here. We're going to gather up our fabric with the elastic in the waistband. To determine the dimensions of your skirt fabric, you first want to start with the width. Take a measuring tape and measure around your waist or your child's waist, and then double it, or triple it, or quadruple it. It just depends on how full you want your skirt to be. For the length, measure from your waist down to your knee. I find that that's just kind of a good general measurement, and it gives you some wiggle room. If you want it to be shorter later, you can always cut part of it off. So for my 7-year-old daughter, her waist is 20 inches. So double that, 40 inches. And then from waist to her knee is 15 inches. So I'm gonna cut a large rectangle of fabric, 40 by 15 inches. That's kind of a long piece of fabric, so if you happen to not have that, you can cut 2 separate rectangles and we'll sew down both sides. Work with whatever you have on hand. For the elastic, you wanna cut at the size of the waist and then add an extra inch. This allows us to overlap the 2 ends and sew them together when we're done. Now there are all different kinds of elastic. You can buy braided elastic, knit elastic, woven. I find that I like knit the best. It tends to stand up strong inside your skirt, while braided elastic tends to kind of roll. And if you've had that happen to yourself, you totally know what I'm talking about. So I cut my elastic 21 inches, and now we're ready to sew the skirt. Start by sewing the side seam of your skirt. If you're using one large rectangle of fabric like I am, fold it in half with right sides together, match up the 2 ends, and we're gonna sew right down the side. If you're using 2 rectangles of fabric, sew the first side and then sew the second side. I am using a 1/4-inch seam allowance. You can use any size you want. There's a lot of wiggle room here. You don't even need to pin it, just start sewing. All right, there we go. Okay, now, as I always recommend, you wanna iron out the seam. I hate ironing, but it's definitely key to making your projects look more professional and less handmade. So take the time. Now we're gonna create a casing for the top, which is how the elastic's gonna go through the skirt. Turn it right side out, and we're gonna iron a 1/4 inch under all the way around. There's not really a top or bottom to the skirt yet, so just pick a side. If you happen to have a serger, this is a really nice way to you can serge the edge and skip this step, which is what I like to do. But this is gonna make it look nice and polished. Now you wanna fold it over 1.5 inches to create the casing. It's just wide enough for your elastic to go through. You want the elastic to be snug in there, but not too tight that you haven't left enough room for it to get through. So we're gonna go all the way around here. I guess ironing is kind of peaceful. I shouldn't hate it so much. Now we're gonna sew the waistband. And you don't need to pin all the way around the casing. That takes way too long. What you do wanna do is to pin a start and a stop point to create a gap or an opening for the elastic to come in and out at the end. About 2 inches is all that you need. And then we're gonna sew about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. So start at your start point and just get sewing all the way around. And just like that, I'm back to my stop point. Now we've sewn our casing, and as you can see, if we put our elastic on there, the skirt is about twice as wide as the elastic, which is great. It's gonna gather real beautifully. Now we wanna put the elastic through the skirt. And you can buy fancy tools at the fabric store, like a bodkin to help you put the elastic through. Dude, a safety pin works just as good. So grab a big safety pin, put it on the end, and then let's go into that fancy little opening that we left. Stick it right in there, and then just start pushing your elastic through. Push it through enough that you get the other end of the elastic right at the opening. And when you do that, you want to take a second safety pin and secure the end of that elastic in place. Okay, just keep going all the way around. As you get closer to the end, it's going to be a little bit harder to push all this fabric down, especially if you've made your skirt about 3 times your waist size. And we have made it back to the other side of our opening. So pull that through, unpin the other side that we secured in place, and pull that elastic out as well. The important thing here is to make sure you don't twist the direction of these two elastic ends after you pull them through. So pull them so you have enough room to get it under your sewing machine, and then overlap them about 1 inch. And then we're gonna sew 2 lines and a zigzag stitch. A zigzag stitch is gonna allow that elastic to continue to stretch. Okay, now this is the fun part. You get to watch the skirt bounce into place. Just pull it all out. Shift things around so that it's even everywhere. That is looking cute already. Look at that. Now as you can see, our opening is still poking out in the back, so we gotta sew that closed first. You don't even need to pin anything, just kind of stretch it. And sew right on top of that casing line that we sewed before. Pull the fabric as you go. All right. All we have to do is sew the hemline. We're gonna create the hem of the skirt similar to how we did the casing at the top. First, we're gonna iron it under 1/4 inch to give it a nice finished edge. And then whatever length you want the skirt to be, iron it over another inch, iron it 1/2 inch. After this, I'm gonna iron it over another 1/4 inch because I kinda like the length that it already is. And this is just gonna encase all those raw edges on the fabric to make sure nothing unravels over time with washing. Now I am all done. I'm gonna sew it closed. You don't need to pin anything here, just start sewing. Sewing close to the edge, going all the way around. And look at that! We just made a simple skirt. Now let's try a double layer. For a double layer skirt, you start with a base layer, which is the same dimensions as the simple skirt, and then a second layer, which is 2 inches shorter. And we're also adding another fun element here. We're gonna line the bottom hemlines with double fold bias tape. Now I've purchased this at the store in a little package like this, but you can easily make your own, and we have a detailed step-by-step video tutorial on my website and YouTube channel. We're gonna start with our base layer. Take your double fold bias tape, we're gonna open it up, and we're gonna sandwich it right around the hem of the skirt. Now take note on your bias tape that one side is slightly wider than the other. You want the side that's less wide to be on the top, the part that you're sewing, because that ensures that it's gonna sew properly through to the back without any gaps or anything like that. So just put it around there. We are not gonna pin anything. We're just gonna start sewing. Just sew right down. Continue sandwiching more bias tape around the edge and then just keep sewing. This actually makes this skirt come together pretty quickly because you don't have to worry about ironing and doing a hem at the end. The hemming is already done for you, which is great. When you get to the end, just cut the excess off. Now let's do the exact same thing with the other layer. Now before we sew these 2 layers together, we want to sew them as separate skirts down the side seam. So with right sides of the fabric together, just sew right down that side. We've got our side seam. Now let's do the same thing with the second layer. Now I'm just ironing out my side seam. And if you want your side seams to look a little more polished and to keep them from fraying over time, you can sew a zigzag stitch down the side of it. If you have a serger, you can serge it. Or you can even cut them with pinking shears, which are those cool little scissors that have zigzags on the blade. Now we've got 2 finished layers and we want to combine them as one piece of fabric. So start by taking the shorter piece and putting it over the longer layer. Just push it right inside and then match it up at the top where the 2 side seams come together. And then match it up on the other side and shake it all out. And if we've done our math properly, they should fit perfectly over each other. Look at that, looks great. Now what we wanna do is sew right around the top so that they stay together as one piece. And now we have one piece of fabric, similar to how we started with our simple skirt. All we have to do now is to make a casing, pull the elastic through, and we're done. From here to the end, I'm creating this the same way I did with the simple skirt. Iron the edge under 1/4 inch. Fold it over another 1.5 inches and iron. Mark a 2 inch wide opening in the back for the elastic to come in and out. Sew all the way around the casing 1/8 inch from the edge of the fabric. String the elastic through using 2 safety pins. Overlap the ends of the elastic by 1 inch and sew them together. Sew the opening of the casing closed. And there you go, another simple but really fun skirt. We've made it double layered, we've added bias tape to the hemline, and what I love best is how bouncy it is. My daughter is gonna love this skirt. For more patterns and tutorials, check out my website, danamadeit.com, and click the subscribe button to be updated with all of our latest videos. I will see you later.